You can begin again. Let your day begin. Chasing my dreams, making things a reality. 'Cause I know that it can start a new day. It's a brand new day. I have a smile on my face. 'Cause I know about His love and grace. Yeah. 'Cause I know that it's a brand new day. Living my life, trying to love everybody right.
What's up, Battle?
Got my sword and my shield. Oh, baby, we're gonna win. 'Cause I know that it's a brand new day. It's a
Yes, sir, Cardi.
lovely day.
Jalen Hurst, I'll take him.
Lovely day. 'Cause I know that it's a brand new day.
What's up, family? What's up, y'all? We back live again. Just vibing a little bit tonight. During this coronavirus pandemic is keeping us in, so we thought that we'd take some time to just share some things with our TheCoreofU family, our spiritual family, our friends, whoever you may be, wherever you are. Thanks for checking in with us today. So we got a few, after we did the last live, we got a few questions and a few texts, and someone wrote to us about social media in relationships. And so we thought that was a very big thing to talk about, social media and relationships. What are the boundaries? Are there limits? Are there things that you allow, or things that you don't allow, when it comes to social media and your relationships?
And we thought it was especially important at this time because being that we're quarantine couples or quarantine singles dating, there's a tendency to want to just turn to the phone instead of turn to each other.
Right.
It's easy to get lost in the phone, pick it up. We make a spiritual practice to try not to touch the phone before we've said our thank you, Lord, for waking me up in the morning.
Right.
I don't want that to be the first thing I do or the last thing I do. And so because there's a tendency to be distracted and entertained by social media, that can also be a blind spot for couples and people dating that can really drive a wedge for couples.
Yeah,
And-
social media, it can be great. What it does, me living out in California, most of our family both are back in Michigan. It allows me to keep up with my nephews and my niece, and then just I'm able to kind of see them growing up and stuff like that. So I'm in a sports group. One of my boys, a couple of my partners are on tonight, just checking us out in a sports group. We have a great time just cracking jokes and talking junk to one another about sports, and we love that. But there was a time in the beginning of our relationship where social media caused the problem, and so there were some things that I have to be honest that I did on social media, even though I said no, there was nothing wrong. To wifey, it looked wrong. It looked bad. It didn't look appropriate.
Shout out if you hear me, anybody, women or men. Here's the thing. I have to admit that I am one that's not really very involved on social media. I am just getting there because of our business, because of our aspirations, and because of, like Ken said, the connections with family. I'm seeing the upside, and especially during now coronavirus, I'm connecting with source, friend groups, work groups, like everybody is connecting, be it Zoom, IG live groups, whatever it is. I can see the benefit. However, it did irritate me early in our relationship when my husband would be just doing this on the phone. And let me tell you this, we have found that you've got to be proactive and get ahead of setting the boundaries for your relationship in terms of talking about it. Like, you really need to talk about what are your social media rules. And so being that he was more involved in it than I was like, okay, what are the rules here? When we're out hanging out, are we allowed to share our IG handle and our Facebook handle with someone? I just got on Facebook about 2 years ago for a class, and all these people started finding me, and I was like, yeah, what are the rules of the game here? And so we had to talk about it.
Yeah, and I have a personal phone and I have a work phone. And wifey knows ever since we've been together, even before we were married and just dating, I leave my phone. It's no craziness, so I leave my phones around, no passcodes, none of that stuff on there. If you ain't doing nothing wrong, you don't have anything to be afraid of and worried about. I know there was a time in my past, a long time ago, in past relationships where I kept the phone. It was like a tattoo to my skin because I ain't want nobody to see, when you're doing something wrong. But if you on the up and up, when you grow up, you get mature, and you find yourself in a place where you learn that you're responsible for your actions and the things, even if you don't do something, the things that you allow to come in, if you don't nip those things in the bud, then it can cause some havoc in your relationship. So, wifey knows she has all my passcodes, and some guys may look at that and say, well, you might be whipped or you henpecked or something like that. I don't agree with anything like that. We're married, so whatever I have in my phone, she's free to. She's free to have and free to look at and free to see it. You know what I mean? And I have no problems with that at all. And so I had to get there, though. I had to learn. I had to mature. I had to get to that place where I knew I wasn't doing anything wrong, so it was no problem. Here you go, babe. And she'll answer them and stuff like that. Answer my phone. I have no problem with that at all. And most of the time she don't. She'll just bring it to me. But I think because we built that trust, too.
Right, and we had to talk about it. And I think that would be our CoreofU couples tip number 1. Talk about the phone, and if it's going to be an open policy. Right. We think that it should be if you want to establish that trust from the beginning.
That's right.
And it's also a safety measure. We have children together. I know a couple that was somewhere and one was incapacitated, and the other one didn't know the code to their significant other's phone. So how could they communicate with loved ones or anyone outside of an incoming call, or to identify people that really needed to know that something important had happened?
Right.
So that's another reason for safety and for trust. You should have that talk early on once you've solidified that this is a one-on-one, situation or a marital situation. The phone should not be off limits.
And I heard, it was crazy. I was listening to SportsCenter today, and one of the ladies on SportsCenter, she said, we're married, so my phone is open. Anything in my phone is open to my significant other. She said, but before we were married, she said, don't touch my phone. That was their boundaries and limits that they set. But once they got married, she was like, okay, boom, there you go. And so I was like, I had a lot of respect for that, because I'm like, okay, what they did was, like you said, they set their boundaries early, so everybody knew what was going on, what was allowed, what wasn't allowed. You know what I mean? And so if there's anything that's inappropriate, and and if somebody sends you something that's inappropriate, it's your responsibility to, knock that out, push that away, and move on. Don't entertain that, because that could get you into a whole lot of trouble.
I love that you do that, babe. My babe, I didn't know that. I guess there's spam or bots or things that send kind of like spicy, racy emails and texts or Facebook messages to people or IG messages, and so Ken will show me. He'll be like, babe, look, just in case, I just want you to know, look, this is, I don't know this person. They sent it to me. Boom, boom. And I really respect that, because I wasn't educated on that part. So,
and anybody on Facebook, when it comes to just a picture and they don't have no friends or nothing like that, man, you'd be like, I don't know you. Who sent you? You might be somebody working for the government. Delete it immediately. And once she found that out, everything was cool. So I just think that boundaries, and it's important. And then the other thing was this. When we go out, we tease often when we see couples, and you can tell when it's a newer couple that maybe they just first started dating or something like that, and they're sitting across the table from one another, and they're on their phones, and you can kind of tell from their body language. You're like, they're not even married, they're just kind of dating. This might even be their first or second or third date, and they're on their phones and they're in social media, and I'm like, what is going on here? Why are they on there, when you should be spending time? So we set boundaries and rules there. And both of us on our jobs, on our work phones, we get a lot of emails. She gets way more emails than I do, but I still get a lot of emails. I have people that call me and ask questions for my job, and she knows that, and I explain that to her. But when we on our dates, when it's one-on-one time, when it's just us, social media and all that is out the door, man. Put the phones on silent, vibrate over there, turn off, and we tune in to one another. Turn off that other stuff and tune in to one another. How can you really learn about your significant other or really spend quality time in your relationship with the person you say you love, you're going to spend the rest of your life with, all these beautiful and great things, right? And you're always on social media. Social media it can be great, but we found that it can definitely be a distraction. if you're not mature enough to handle social media.
Yeah, and talk about it. Do you have exes on there? I know he's friends with some of his old flames. I have friends, I think, that are people that I might have related to in the past, and we talk about that. We even have extended that to in person. I have asked, and so is Ken, that I don't let me be in the room with somebody that you have had a past with and I not know. That's something that we have found you can get ahead of a situation by just saying, and you don't got to go into all the old dirty laundry, but you should let somebody know when they're in the room with somebody from your past. And I think the same carries over into social media. Hey, so and so reached out to me today. Blah, blah, blah. But just in general, babe, being that you're the one that's on social media more, what would you, for sports and just to connect with fam and just to keep our daughter, she's into acting, so he keeps our accounts and things relevant. So what would you say from the person, not the man's perspective, but the person who is more involved in social media, what feels good in terms of not getting into your freedom too much, but understanding that I want our time to be our time? What feels good? I mean, because we haven't set a hard and fast rule on, like, you're only going to be on it an hour a day, but we do know when it's time for us to have our time.
Definitely.
Organically.
Well, I mean, I think just knowing you, knowing my wife, and I mean, I don't want it to take up all of my day and all of my time. I have fun with like I said, with the sports group, and we talk junk and stuff like that, and as she said, and like, having my daughter on there, and I fought it hard when it first started, and now we have this ministry that we're doing now, so we're trying to do more videos, as you guys are gonna see us more visible on here talking about different topics like this. So social media is where it's at now. If you want to get your brand, you want to get your name out there and do your thing, and you want it to be successful, this is where it has to be. But I do believe in one-on-one time. We told you last time about writing letters to one another. I do believe in the intimacy of that, and it's so important. I want to make sure that I maintain that, and that remains the foundation of our relationship. I don't want to be talking to my wife through social media and stuff like that. I mean, if we're apart, it's hey babe, I love you and stuff like that. But even then, social media can be great because we can FaceTime one another, or go live with one another and just talk one-on-one and things like that. So for me, I appreciate the one-on-one. It's nothing like one-on-one. It's nothing like face-to-face. It's nothing like talking to the person that you say you love, sitting across from you and seeing them smile, and you finding out ways that they tick and stuff like that. You don't get that through social media. You don't get that one-on-one. You don't get that intimacy. You don't get that, that connection through that. So that's why, for me, that's what I love about it, and I want to maintain that.
And let's get transparent. For me, I had to acknowledge that was a trigger early on. Having had relationships in the past where there were trust issues, I had to let Ken know coming in the door, it triggers me sometimes when I see you in the phone. It brings up old emotions that, one, it's not his responsibility to deal with those, it's my responsibility to acknowledge it. But I also want him to know this is a place where you can help me if you're also transparent about what you're doing. So if you've been on there for a long time, he might be saying, babe, it's the draft tonight. I want you to know I'm going to be talking smack, blah, blah, blah. That was for last night. Right. And also, if you can take one thing away from this video and this excerpt, it would be, don't leave it to your imagination or to assumption. Right. Please establish it. I don't care if you've been a 20-year marriage to a 5-day relationship. Talk about it, because if you don't, it's a blind spot. It can trigger, and it's a place where assumption and things can come in that don't have to be a stressor. Let's take stressors off of our plate.
It's enough stress going on as it is. That's the last thing I need if my phone rings or vibrates or something like that. It's for an added stress. So I'm like, hey, let's take this off the table right now. In the beginning of our relationship, we talked about all of those things and made sure. And I had a few hiccups along the road that I had to learn. Okay, what's appropriate and what's not appropriate.
Let's talk about that, y'all.
We're into church and stuff like that. So there were certain things that you have to think about. Don't hit send here, even if it's a funny joke. If it's not appropriate, and people may be looking at you a little crazy and stuff like that, you shouldn't hit send on that. And so going back to what she was saying, so in the beginning, I had to make sure that I keep my conversations on the up and up. And the one thing that you have to think, and what wifey taught me, was this: how would you like it if that was me? If I wrote that or said that, or whether you're telling me is nothing to it at all, how would you feel if I wrote that? You're like, you right, babe.
That's the litmus test.
you right, babe. Okay. And I'm like, no, but there was nothing. But okay, but what it looks bad and it makes me feel bad. So how would you feel if I done that?
And
you know
we just
what?
had to get
You're
comfortable, right? I mean, because I can be a little more conservative about things, and Ken can be a little more free on the social media because he's used to this environment. And I'll be like, are you sure we should be putting that out there? Or are you sure? I would just let him know. And I wasn't trying to put a censor on you or anything like that. But it definitely was more about us getting comfortable with our social media, I guess, etiquette and decorum.
Yeah.
You know, just like, how does a man feel about his wife or their significant other putting a bunch of selfies, you know, scantily clad or things like that? I'm no judgment. You might have a bad body, but talk about it. You might be into working out or fitness. That might be your thing, but talk about it. Talk about how it makes you feel. Talk about where the edge or the line is going to be. And if you have to ask yourself or think about it more than once, then you probably need to run it by your significant other first. Like, if there's something nudging you, if you got to think twice, then you need to talk about it. Put it on the table.
No doubt, definitely. So once again, y'all, is going back to that word that you're gonna probably hear us say more and more all the time. Well, communication, but I like to add effective communication, because sometimes people communicate and it's not effectively. You know what I mean? And I know that's kind of like an oxymoron, because if it's communication, it should be effective, right? But sometimes people don't know how to do effective. What you say, Rich? Social media time is now going down. See, there it is. Hey, nothing wrong with that. Get that one-on-one time, battle. I love that, man. It's mostly definitely important. So communication, though, that's what I was saying. Effective communication about everything that's going on in your household with your relationship. And social media right now, because it's so big, Verizon just called and said we're giving you like 15 extra gigs of data and stuff like that, just because we know that the COVID and everybody's at home. We know that people are searching the web more and on the internet more and all that. So I'm like, okay, cool, thank you. But like, for somebody, if you're not mature and don't know what you're doing and you're out there and wilding out, oh my God, 15 more gigs, you can find yourself in a whole lot of trouble with your significant other if you don't know what to do the right way with it.
Right, and I think you touched on something. I think we also need to guard, especially for our young millennials and people like that that's dating, sometimes the only conversation is through text or IMs, and you need to question that. Come off of the IMs, come off of the messengers, come off of the phone, have a conversation. Even if FaceTime, Zoom is better than just always the written word. There's a lot that can be left to assumption, and a lot that I've said that word, and that's what we want to avoid, the assumption gap. And if something makes you feel uncomfortable, don't be afraid to talk about it.
No doubt.
We got to put it on the table. Like I said, I was vulnerable, and I had some triggers that I had to early on work on, but I had to tell them.
And then I had to make sure, my responsibility then, once she speaks to those triggers, I have to make sure that I build trust in our relationship in all areas. Make sure you build trust so you don't have to keep working on it. You can say, okay, she knows who I am. She knows who I am. She knows that I'm not. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing bad going on. And if she feels something, ask, and then you just be truthful and honest about it. And that's the greatest thing, man. That's what that effective communication is. Somebody asked the question, how do you work on communication when one is quiet and reserved and the other is open?
Well, the first thing is you have to be intentional about bringing it to the table. So look, Friday night, I want to set some time aside to talk about this with you. And we're going to have to pull the quiet person out of their comfort zone. Right. We're going to have to, which means we start making it a couple habit to have set aside time where we put things on the table that we want to build and make better. It doesn't, I think sometimes when men, because mostly it's the women that want to talk, when
Right.
men hear we want to talk,
Right.
they think, what did I do wrong? So if we could build a muscle where talk doesn't mean something's wrong, talk means how can we make best better?
Right.
How can we make good great?
Right,
If
right.
we build that muscle and make it like a habit to put things on the table, now we could work it in. What do you think?
I know, I like that. So every time wifey or girlfriend or boyfriend or whoever it is, they say talk, but it comes with a nagging session or a complaint session, then guess what? Person is not going to want to talk. But if you just say, hey, I want to talk because I want to get to know you a little more. I want you to get to know me a little more. And it's difficult because there are times when I'm very, very quiet. Very, very quiet.
That Scorpio come out, he want to be alone.
I just kind of want to be alone. I want to do me, and she respects that. Now, I'm married to somebody that's out. She's going. She's an extrovert all the way, and she wants to talk. So we got to find that balance, find that medium where we can say, okay, I allow you to be you, so I'm going to talk to you, and we're going to do this, and we're going to have fun, and I'm going to be an extrovert with you, and I find that I have a whole lot of fun. And she's opened up another side to me on that. And then sometimes, hey, let me just be me and just chill out. And, you know, and I think that's the respect of it all. Like I said, babe, I want to watch the draft last night.
Touched on that.
And when I watched, she said, okay, honey, I got the kids, you do your thing. And I'll go ahead and let you watch the draft. And she, before you come on, why don't you do this? Watch the dishes, do that. No problem. You know what I mean? And then she doesn't always have to tell me. I'm just saying on that moment and that night, that's what it was. So as people are saying, communication, compromising to agree, communication is so
right.
important. And it's hard. And going back to that question one more time, you know, if the person is just always quiet and you're more of an extrovert, find a place where they will be, where they are comfortable and in their space where they will talk. Everybody has a place and space. Sometimes it may take you a long time for you to find it, but find it. Find out where that is.
Like, do they prefer talking while driving?
Whatever, yeah.
Something, you know, what triggers them?
What triggers them that will open them up, you know, and then they won't be so uncomfortable and like, no, I don't want to talk, you know what I mean? And so I think that's big too.
I'm glad you said that because timing is key for everybody. Like, we got to be able to read one another. So if somebody's coming off a stressful day or there's someplace else their mind is, that's not the time to talk about most things.
Right.
So timing is key.
Timing is key.
On everything, making it a habit to making talking like a positive relationship thing we do. And then I love what you said about finding that safe place where some people will open up.
Yeah, some people may talk more if they sitting at the bar watching sports. They may open up. Maybe at that time they just want to be quiet. Maybe you have to. I don't know. I don't know what it is. You just have to find some things that they like to talk about. You know, that's where and this is where the social media thing can sometimes get us down or
Reading interviews.
or misconstrue, because if we're always on social media, you don't really get the time to learn a person, to learn their triggers, to learn the things that they like. That's why it's important for you that are in relationships, sometimes put the phone and everything down, get off social media, and go hug on her, boy. Go slap her on the behind, something. Just tell her you love her, give her a kiss, do something. We got to do something that's going to keep our energy and everything in our relationship on the upper level,
like
going
doing
good.
that barbecue.
Another thing that we do, I think you touched on it, but I want to make sure I say it again, in the morning time, is we try not to hurry up and grab our phones immediately when we get up. And we both have jobs that through the middle of the night, we may have a bunch of emails. So I'm not talking about that because that's work, that's important. You want to snatch your coins, right? You want to make sure you get your money. But even with that, they can wait. You know what I mean? If they waited through the whole night, they can wait another 30 minutes or so. Make sure you take that time to get up and pray with your significant other. Now, I get up before her. A lot of times a couple of hours before she do. So sometimes I'll just lay in the bed and I'll say my prayer, and then we'll connect. But on the days that we are off, we try to make sure we lay in the bed, look at one another, talk to one another, and make sure we pray before we get on the social media and before you get on all of that. That's going to help build your foundation major. Maybe you're a person that is not a person that believes in prayer or whatever it is. Just take time to talk to one another then. You'll get time to learn your significant other in that way. But for us, prayer in the morning and making sure we just talk, what's going on, how was your day, not just saying it just because it sounds good too. Really, how was your day? How was your week? What are we gonna do today? What are we gonna do this week? What are we gonna do this weekend? Just take time. Sometimes we just sit in the bed and just be silly, whatever it
Yeah.
is. It's not always jumping on social media. Just not always jumping on social media.
And so we've made our spiel. This week was about the social media boundaries, especially because we all have more time sheltering in place, and we want to make sure we make our relationships proof from getting lost in someplace other than within. And we would love if anyone has more questions, shoot them over. We'll take them right now. If there's anything you want to ask us about. And like I said, I do want you, because my background is in electronic evidence, just remember that the things you put in writing, they stay forever. And also the things you put in writing may not look how you intended them. So remember to just think about that and consider your significant other. If a joke is crass, if a forward is crass, how's that going to make them feel? You know, is it making a married man appear single? What is it? So let's just, is it making a married woman appear other than what she wants to?
Right.
Or are you kind of advertising yourself? You got to keep these things in mind. But any questions, we'll take them now. Otherwise, if there's something you want us to touch on, we will. Shoot that to us.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's big, man. I think it's so important. I'm enjoying this right now because it gives me a little more time to connect with my babe, with my children, even learning a little more just about myself, man. Just going within and just taking the time to learn about me. This is a great time to do all of those things. Don't allow social media to ruin your relationship. That's the last thing you want to do in life, man. That's the last thing you want to do. It's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. Just to click on or to hit send or to accept a friendship.
Oh, and think about what you're liking too, because I've had couples say, "Why are you liking this one? You know, why are you liking this one person?" You gotta be thinking about that.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of, as you say, social media etiquette. If you liking this picture of this one person all the time, then people are gonna assume that you like them or something. So you really definitely got to be careful of putting yourself out there, because like you said, once you put it out there, you can't take it back. There's no going backwards.
So we are here to help be a blessing to others. That's why this was important for us and for our ministry. Hey, we don't have all the answers. We just want to help people with what we've seen and what we've experienced. And like I said, we had to get over this hurdle for ourselves, and we want to help others. And we just want to make sure you should stay evolving and stay learning and loving on one another. You don't know it all. So just if you got to make some rules about it in terms of, we don't bring the phones to the dinner table. You know, we don't if I'm in a conversation with you, please don't pick up your phone and look at it a bunch of times, whatever.
That's a good one. I want to say that. When was the last time you sit down, the one you said, when was the last time you sit down and just had dinner with your family, man, with your significant other, with your children? Everybody, you know, I know we think it's so old school and so, you know, way back in the day, but just everybody get to the table, sit down, eat dinner together, ask each other questions, talk, do whatever you need to do, be silly, ask the children about their day, talk to them, put the phones and the social media down and away. There's a scripture that talks about there's a time and place for all things. There are certain places that it's just not the time for. You shouldn't have it on. You shouldn't have it open. You shouldn't be checking for it, doing all that, especially if you're on a date. And I'm hoping that you got, well, right now we can't, but maybe you can go on a date in the backyard or the front yard or in the living room.
Get creative.
You got to get creative right now. So whatever it is that you're doing, I hope and pray that your relationship stands strong, it stays true, and that God will bless your union. We really believe that. Follow us on IG and Facebook at TheCoreofU. CoreofU, CoreOF, the letter U. TheCoreofU. Follow us on IG and Facebook. We talk about things like this all the time. We have a word of the week that we're going to start putting it out. And all of that. Somebody said there should be a no phone zone. Exactly. You need to establish that in your relationship, though, early on. When and where is the no phone zone? Exactly,
because we've heard about all these instances of alleged missteps with, you know, athletes or different famous people recording sexual endeavors. And it's like, why is the phone there in the first place?
Even out in that time.
Because there should be no, I accidentally slipped and sent it to everybody on Instagram rather than saving it.
Right.
Just, you think about that. And I'm not saying, I mean, if you got your kinky thing on and y'all like to tape yourself, but if you had a no phone zone in the bedroom, that
Right.
might not happen in terms of while you making love.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that happens. Yeah.
Something just happened recently.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
definitely.
talking about.
Yeah. So, hey, God bless y'all family. We love y'all. We're coming to you from the backyard today in beautiful sunny California. I hope everything is good with you. I hope that you're staying safe. I hope that you're staying at home, and if you need to go out, you're social distancing and all that beautiful stuff.
Shells.
And we hope that we can be back next week again, same time, same channel.
Yep. Send us your questions, y'all.
All right.
Peace.
Peace. You gotta hit